and you have to keep those factors in mind. In fact, Mavish, you've been going through some similar experiences. How has your experience been of actually trying to sell your house?
I like to take humor in every situation. So for me, I've actually noticed that people actually come to our house often and they'll use the washroom, for example. And then you see these habits of people. So what me and my husband did was we actually printed this very bright red sign, says do not use washroom, and it's on the toilets so that people will have to physically lift that up if they want to use it.
What is the conversion rate on that sign? Like, is it 20% successful? Is it 10% successful? Is it 50% successful? I need to stop
So
being such a
I would
nerd.
only know that if I put a camera in my washroom, which I don't think is a good idea.
That's going beyond cringe.
That's going beyond cringe. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. We've been exploring the data behind how cringy we can get in these podcasts. So if you want to
That's
keep watching and tuning into our cringe level, I think we are at now a level 6, and we'll
it's
see
over
how.
9,000.
6 out of 10 or 6 out of 5.
Yeah,
I
I'll
would say
put.
it's over 9,000.
We
Or
track it
9,000.
each episode. I'm going to put up a bar. Right now, I'm going to say we're at a 6
We're,
after the
we're
last.
all, when are we going to hit Super Saiyan level?
Yeah.
You know, we'll have to wait and see.
Welcome
Next.
to the Cambrian Explosion. How is everyone doing? Today we have an exciting episode for you about housing and the housing market. We know it's a very, very interesting topic and current topic right now. Housing is a big issue in Canada. And continuing on our last episode, just a little question. You've moved to Canada, you're an immigrant. What are the tips around housing that Yawer, yourself, and Mavish you have for those immigrants? Mavish, why don't you go first? Because you have the number one right there on top.
I was going to say it's kind of bad, so I've kind of moved to more balmy and windy weather.
You're doing reverse immigration even on Zoom.
Yes, exactly. No one said you couldn't travel while at home.
Yeah, I know. It's a COVID thing that we've learned to do everything while still sitting at home with VR headsets
Yes,
and
yes. Now we need to
so
reverse the COVID side effects, but that is a topic for another podcast. So today, I think one of the interesting things is it worth it to buy a house in Canada? Can we even afford one? And
mm,
the challenge is a lot of people are actually buying houses and then realizing they can't afford it. My husband is a part-time real estate agent, and looking at the houses that are being listed, it's interesting that some people buy it and then realize they can't afford it, and then you can see, in the MLS system, uh, what's going on. And a lot of people I've noticed is, they're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Again, this is just my opinion from just that, is they've listed it, they're reselling it, and they are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars because they realize they cannot afford the payments. Now, whether or not there was something wrong with the house because they're relisting it, I don't know. But because I've seen so many, I feel like people realize that they just couldn't afford it. They've come to Canada. Maybe the house was really good and they thought they could, make the payments. But when you look at maintenance issues that come into a house, and then you have to make repairs, any renovations you want to make, maybe you listen to your wife a little too much and you renovate too much and you
well,
realizing
I
you
think
can't make it.
let's start from a more basic advice that people are given, and let's actually talk about that piece of advice. And that piece of advice is, and I got this advice as well, and I'm sure you guys also have received this advice, which is it's better to pay mortgage than to pay rent, because when you're paying mortgage, you're basically putting money back into your own bank account with a little bit given to the bank, rather than paying rent where you're putting money in somebody else's bank account.
But that's what I'm saying. If you sell your house, like I'm trying to sell my house right now,
Yeah.
3 years later, but you have to pay your real estate agents, you have to pay the land transfer tax, the
Yes.
lawyers, and then if you end up losing money after putting your investment in, you might just get your down payment back. You're not really gaining any money. And we've renovated our house. It's a beautiful house, beautiful location.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell you guys, people watching on it, but Just saying. It's
And the address is, and then you can also share the MLRS listing and
No, no. Jokes aside, it's, we renovated it, but at the end of the day, putting all those costs aside, because interest rates are so high, if someone can't afford the price and we sell it at a lower price, then technically I've made no money after putting all those things in. So if I had paid rent and forced the landlord to fix all the issues I'm having with it, the might have been better for me, you know?
and I think that so the reason I pointed out that initial advice is because I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think that's the advice a lot of people are given. And I'm trying to say that what Mavish you're saying is actually correct. And this is something that people actually need to make financial spreadsheets and add risk factors and talk to people and understand what are the actual risks, because just don't listen to the common, I mean, the common advice given isn't wrong either. It needs to be thought through. Just don't listen to it without doing your homework is basically, I think, the takeaway of what we're discussing.
Well, the part of the common advice is that can you actually afford the house? The common advice that everybody will give you, for example, will link you to an RBC, Royal Bank of Canada page about buying a house and how much you can afford, is that 30 to 30% of your income is okay to go to mortgage, principal, interest, property taxes, maintenance fees, heating costs. Up to that percentage of your income, you are okay with spending on your whole housing situation. If you are going above that percentage, if you're spending half of your income on a mortgage, then you are in the danger zone and you cannot afford that house.
Based on what you're saying, Yaver, that means and the prices right now, basic cookie cutter 3 bedroom house, 850 to 900,000. You might need $200,000 coming into
Mhm.
Canada to make that down payment
Down
without a
payment, yeah.
job
Mhm.
and having to afford a car and all that.
And you might have
Uh,
a $4,000 mortgage, right?
yeah, actually, so a lot of people I know are paying $5,000 a month, and
About
and
five thousand
that's
dollars.
yeah, and then that's because your maintenance fees are also going up. Who knows what they do with that
Mhm.
maintenance, but they're taking the
Yeah,
fees,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
then you have to pay for electricity, utilities. Some people pay for water. You're clocking in, clocking out at work, and you're paying your mortgage, and that's about it,
So, if I can talk about how currencies work, typically what happens is that when inflation and price rises happen, currencies don't go back down. What tends to happen is average earning or the earning potential or the salaries go up to make up for the fact that the cost of housing, cost of living has gone up. The economic activity helps catch up to that. Usually, it's not the other way around, that cost of living is going to come down, or it's the economic activity catching up. And I think that that's one of the things that when you calculate your numbers, you have to keep in mind. Things aren't going to get cheaper in Canada in the sense of things are going to go down in prices unless there's a market crash in the housing market, which is a completely different thing, which is absolutely horrendous for Canada and for immigrants coming to Canada.
Yeah, but to
Um,
combat that, isn't that possibly why the Bank of Canada has tried to lower the rate a bit, the interest rate?
um, it is because the economy is suffering so bad that housing is also suffering. It's got to do with it's cyclical. The reason that people are driving the rent prices up or mortgages are going up is because the economy is awful at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So to me, it's all interrelated. I just want to point out that prices don't usually go down. It's just that the economy does better, and so people have more purchasing power, earn more money rather than. And I'm just saying you should factor that into any calculations that you do, and when you're moving into Canada, that things aren't going to get cheaper. You will have to find a way to earn more money or bring more money to Canada to be able to do what you want to do in terms of investment and real estate. So at times it's actually better to wait and rent even at a place that is not necessarily your ideal, so you can build up the savings to get into something that you want to, and you actually drive down your monthly payments because you're doing a one-time payment that's good enough to get you into the right mortgage range for you.
Yeah, and there was a
And
video I was watching recently which made a point that we are technically not in a recession. because Canada has let in so many immigrants that the immigrants are bringing in a little bit of money, and that is actually increasing GDP. And because of that increase,
I'm gonna say something completely opposite of that. Economists can define things the way that they want to. It's how people feel the recession in their pocket that matters. And I feel that as far as that is concerned, cost of living, food has gone up, housing has gone up, etc., etc., and there are not enough job opportunities in the market. So you can change they actually changed the definition of recession 2 years ago because they didn't want to
okay.
declare a recession. They changed the definition of what a vaccine is 3 years ago when COVID was happening. The definition of vaccine used to be different than what it currently is. And I can understand they're trying to keep up with new technologies when they're changing the definition or with conditions. But those you're not comparing apples to apples when you're changing definitions. So
That's true. I think the rise in immigration is something if people want to watch one of our earlier podcasts on Should I Leave Canada? It's
yeah,
just sort of our stats there, which is kind of the point I'm making, that there's so many immigrants now that once they're coming in and looking at things like real estate, and if they are bringing a little bit of their savings in here,
yeah,
just bringing it back to the conversation, maybe they don't want to use those savings in a house which
that's true.
is not going to give them back value. At some point, you think land is always going to increase in value. I actually think that's not been happening recently. It's not.
That I agree with, and that's, I think, one of the reasons that I'm saying that, look, you got to be careful when you move to Canada in terms of what is the economy telling you, are you really in a situation where you can afford all of this. So I'm absolutely agreed with you on that.
One thing I'd add is that often in immigrant communities, there's a no, maybe not just immigrant community, in every community really. Immigrants are kind of like we tend to congregate in certain areas, so it might affect us a bit more. Is that you see another person who is also in a similar, life situation like you, and they appear to be more successful, and they have a nice house and a nice car, and you think that, okay, you know what, I should also do that as well because I want to fit into that lifestyle as
Peer
well. I think
pressure, you're
peer
talking
pressure,
about.
exactly.
Yeah,
Peer
yeah.
pressure. And so people make decisions based on the peer pressure, but not thinking about the monetary aspects of it. So I would say that try to resist the pressure of trying to become just like as successful as everybody else, like leading a lifestyle which shows success rather than you have to build your foundations first to be solid, showing that how successful you are.
I'm gonna segue back to Mavish on this one. When you actually do end up buying a house, there are additional costs in certain terms of when you want to get out of that deal, and you have to keep those factors in mind. In fact, Mavish, you've been going through some similar experiences. How has your experience been of actually trying to sell your house?
Well, honestly, people come and see the house, but they're not buying it, and it's for a lot of different reasons. And it's actually very frustrating. But one of the, we learn to live with it. One of the funny, I like to take humor in every situation. So for me, I've actually noticed that people actually come to our house often, and they'll use the washroom, for example. And then you see these habits of people. So what me and my husband did was we actually printed this very bright red sign, says do not use washroom, and it's on the toilets so that people will have to physically lift that up if they want to use it. Because people were using our toilets too, they don't want to buy the house, but because maybe they've been seeing a bunch of houses that day, they'll use the toilet, see the house, not really even call us and give us feedback as to why they didn't like it, and just sort of leave. It's almost like they need a real estate agent to actually even see the house. So, it's kind of like the agent knows and they're still sort of doing this. They're not removing their shoes. Some of the, you can see sometimes they do leave a bit of chaos in their wake. So, it just goes back to it is frustrating if, you buy a house and you put all your money into it and then you can't sell it despite it being really great. Just be prepared for that. If you do think it's worth it, it's not a seller's market right now, it's a buyer's market.
So
So
I'm such a data person that I actually am thinking right now, what is the conversion rate on that sign? Like, is it 20% successful? Is it 10% successful? Is it 50% successful? I need to stop
So
being such a
I would
nerd.
only know that if I put a camera in my washroom, which I don't think is a good idea.
That's going beyond cringe.
That's going beyond cringe. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. We've been exploring the data behind how cringy we can get in these podcasts. So if you want to
That's
keep watching and tuning into our cringe level, I think we are at now a level 6, and we'll
it's
see
over
how.
9,000.
6 out of 10 or 6 out of 5.
Yeah,
I
I'll
would say
put.
it's over 9,000.
We
Or
track it
9,000.
each episode. I'm going to put up a bar. Right now, I'm going to say we're at a 6
We're,
after the
we're all,
last.
when are we going to hit Super Saiyan level?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, we'll have to wait and see next
Okay.
season.
I think we're contributing well to it right now. I think this also, how we're devolving into a completely different topic, means that we're done for the episode for this time.
Yes. That is to say, hire a good real estate agent, get advice, make your own decisions despite the advice you're getting, what's good for you, your pocket, your longevity in Canada if you choose to
Mm.
stay here.
And
At the end of the day,
if there's a sign on, if you are buying, and if there's a sign in the toilet, know not to use it.
yeah, yeah. Just
Somebody might be
FY,
tracking.
no, not even tracking. There are multiple people coming into that house, so who knows who's
Yeah,
using that toilet at
I
that
have a
point.
smart toilet. It knows if it was used or not.
Yes, I put AI in the toilet. It's not going
That's
down
the
the
next
toilet. It's
that's the next
integrated.
step.
That's
Yeah.
the next step.
Which is a separate topic because they are very smart toilets now.
Mhm.
But that's a topic.
Their toilet's smarter than humans nowadays.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I
They
think it's
don't they
in
don't forget
Japan
to
or something.
flush.
Yeah, they don't forget to flush or put the toilet seat down.
Or put the
Exactly.
toilet seat down. Yeah. I
Okay,
think
I
with
think
that
we
all that cringy humor, that
Before this podcast goes into the toilet, let's
yes, wrap it up for
too
today.
late. Too late for that.
Too late for that. Yeah.
Well,
Toilet for that?
yeah.
Oh my God, Nabil, that's a dad joke.
That's such a bad pun. Sorry.
That's a dad joke.
I'm
Okay.
becoming very cringy right now. Okay.
You're
Yes.
so cringy.
So
See you.
cringe level 7 now, in case you guys were keeping track. Uh, and
Okay.
we will see you all in our next episode where we wrap up the year. Please let us know how cringy we're getting. Maybe I'll put
Or
up
should we
a
tone it down?
should we tone it down?
Never.
You guys, if you guys have reached this point in the podcast, please leave us a comment, a like, a subscribe to keep us going. Let us know what you want to see in 2025, and maybe the cringe will continue. And
This
we'll
isn't even
see.
our final form.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're gonna go
exactly.
Super Saiyan next year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cheers. Take
All
care.
right.
Talk to you
Yeah.
soon.
Take care, people.